For those of you I don't know, I'm Joan Gable, and I'm the Dean of the Robert J. Trulaske Senior College of Business, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Vaughn Executive in Residence Lecture. Go ahead and turn off your cell phone if you haven't already, and please stay. I've asked Coach to leave time for Q&A, and I know you all are eager to be able to ask him questions, and I encourage you to give some thought as to what you might ask him as time permits. And we'll have mics for the questions too, so we'll operate the Q&A session that way. So as you all know, our mission in the Trulaske College of Business is very focused on your preparation as a student, and we work really hard to bring in a variety of experts to share their experiences with you because we really think this is one of the best aspects of your preparation, in addition to what you learn in class, to have a chance to hear from people with very interesting stories about their own life arc and personal experience. And we seek out partners and stewards of all kinds of organizations who have advice to share, insights to offer, things that you can consider as you plan your own path towards leadership. And our speakers also give us a unique opportunity to learn about frontline trends, best practices, how to turn challenges into opportunities, and we're always very grateful when they're willing to share their wisdom and insights with us. Today we welcome the leader of an organization I know we all love, Coach Gary Pinkel, the CEO of Mizzou football, as part of our Vaughn Executive in Residence Speaker Series, and we're very pleased to have Coach here during our centennial celebration and as one of our centennial speakers. So I'm going to give you some statistics that I think we all know, but just so that we can hear them all collected together because they're so impressive. Coach Pinkel made a name for himself by turning our football program into one of the most successful in the nation, but success can mean a couple of different things, and I want to give you both sides of this. So his players have a 97% graduation rate, which is one of the best in the country, and he has 26 players on the most recent SEC honor roll, which is something that I know he's very proud of. He also has the third most NFL first-round draft picks since 2009, and we're very proud of our recent Trulaske College of Business alum, TJ Moe, who just signed with the Rams, so we'll get to see him locally, and we're very excited about that. Success also means that Coach Pinkel finds himself in a select group of Mizzou coaches that includes some familiar names like College Football Hall of Famer Don Farrow and Dan Devine as the only coaches who have an MU record above .5 dating back to 1935. Last year, he became, as we all know, the winningest coach in Mizzou football history during a 12-2 season that ended with a really exciting win over Oklahoma State in the AT&T Cotton Bowl Classic, which was one of the best sports experience I know I've ever had. So winning is great. We all love to win, but those wins are the outcome of a process, a vision, creating buy-in, and all of those things, as you know, we collectively refer to as leadership. And it's a style that I've really enjoyed getting to see since my arrival here, and one from which I know you're all going to learn a lot. So please join me in welcoming Coach Gary Pinkel.
Thank you. Thank you. If I had a choice to be outside or being here, I think I'd be outside. So I appreciate you all being here. So it's a beautiful day out there, actually pretty warm. I'm really honored to be here. I spoke a few years ago on leadership, and I'm going to talk a little bit on team building here. Kind of when we got here to Mizzou, and kind of all the things that some things that we were faced, and how we changed the environment and the culture. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I was head coach at University of Toledo. My background, real quick, I coached, my first full-time coaching job was at Bowling Green, Ohio for 2 years. I coached the receivers there. I spent 12 years at the University of Washington in Seattle with Don James, who passed away this past football season. That's my idol. That's my guy. This is a Don James program. And I was there 12 years, went to 11 bowls in 12 years, 3 Rose Bowls. They won the national championship after I left. In the last 7 years, I coached quarterbacks there, and I was offensive coordinator. And became head coach 10 years at Toledo, had some success there. Then I came here to the University of Missouri. When I was a head coach at Toledo, my kids, my 2 oldest, were actually entered University of Toledo. And my daughter, who's married now and has 3 kids here lives here in Columbia, she was a freshman on campus. And I have 2 sons. And so if you're the head football coach at University of Toledo and your daughter is going to come on campus and you got 110 football players, there was a little bit of concern that I had. I want to be honest with you. And it was a lot about the third game. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. But third game, I was walking through the locker room on a Tuesday practice, and guys were getting ready to go out to practice. And I walked through the locker room. There's a guy down there putting shoes and socks on. I walked away. He said, "Hey, coach." He said, hey, your daughter Erin's in my psych class, the Psych 101 class. I said, don't you ever mention my daughter's name again. And the whole locker room went, phew. And so I walked real slowly, walked out the outside door, and you know what? For the next 5 years, never, ever, ever did mention her name again. So I knew that was probably going to happen sooner or later. Accepted this job. I had a lot of people tell me I was crazy for doing this. University of Missouri, when I took this job, 2 winning seasons in 17 years, and they said, you are nuts for doing this, and they described it in other ways too. I felt it was the right place, the right time for me. I felt that if I had the right leadership around me, it would give us a chance to do this, that I could. And I knew of Mike Alden, who are currently our athletic director, and Mike. I would not have come here if it wasn't for Mike Alden. When you're going to do something, what I'm doing, the average life expectancy of a football coach is 5.5 years. Okay, that's the average. This is my 14th year here and my 24th year as head coach, so I've kind of survived this a little bit. When I came here, what they've done, they did over many, many years, they fired a lot of coaches. Every 5, 6 years, fire another one. 5, 6 years, they just keep going on. And the more you do that, the more baggage the program gets, the more difficult it is to get through it. And I needed a rock. I needed when things were really bad, and they got really bad, I needed somebody to stand up and say, this is my guy, okay? I believe in what he's doing, and I'm sticking with him. And Mike did that. Our first 2 seasons were losing seasons, then we had a winning season, then we had a losing season again. So I had 3 losing seasons in 4 years, and you know what they think around here when you start doing that? What do? Fire him, let's get another one in here. But Mike was a rock, and when I needed it. And I think that's a great lesson, in leadership, is that you really have to stand up for what you believe in. And he certainly did that, and I'm very appreciative of that. So what we did is I threw together some things here. When we came here, we had to, golly, that's going to hurt my neck by the end of the night here. We came here, we had to change everything, okay, as a culture. Now, you got to understand, when you walk in a program that had all those losing seasons, you understand when you get there, it's not the player's fault. None of the players' fault. The coaches are bad. So they got rid of the coaches, the same players here. So when you go in there, they think they're doing everything right and everything's good and everything's great. But that's not true, okay? There's a cross-section of a little bit. The coaching, obviously recruiting, obviously maybe the type of program you have, discipline, so on and so forth, and obviously personnel too. One guy once told me that you coach a whole lot better when you got good players. So it's remarkable how that works, and that's what that's about. But getting here right here changed the losing negative culture, and it was an ugly negative culture. When I went recruiting the first December when I was here in 2000, I went into a school in St. Louis, and they would not let me see the football coach. He didn't want to see anybody from Mizzou. Well, I said, I'm new. They didn't care. Well, I learned real quick after that first year that all the baggage that was there, all the baggage was on my back too, in our whole football program. And slowly we had to do the right things to get this stuff to fall off. And understanding that you inherit all those things that happen to you. Most difficult is trying to change the culture and trying to change attitudes. You're changing attitudes, and there's a lot of negative stuff. The community's negative. I mean, everything's in that. Especially you get as you're trying to change these things. Get all the people in the organization committed to the team. Get all people in the organization committed to excellence, and that's our challenge. That's what we had to get done. And so we had a plan in place. We didn't go in to say, "We hope this works." We had an idea and a plan to put in for some things that we did. I do a lot of this, speaking to different businesses and things like that, and that slide's kind of what it's all about. It's all about people. It's all about people, and it's having the right people around you, the right people with you. It's working with people. It's training people. It's changing attitudes, and that is probably as important as anything. Not that do you have that handout? You get me get a handout? You guys get one? This handout's pretty cool. We have this thing called We Are Mizzou, which has a zillion different positive things, goals. Yeah, I got one here. I'm sorry. Thank you. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing here, but you can take it and read it. But it says you work with people and you win with people. Okay, great leaders lead more than just teams or companies. They lead people. In whatever area of aspect of life which you lead, always remember that your truest work lies with people. Any success that you have will come as a result of your people. You do not coach a sport, you coach people. You do not teach a class, you teach individuals. You do not treat a disease, you treat people. And this is just really, really, I think, for someone that is kind of wondering really how important people are, when you read through this thing, I think it's really, really good. And we have managers or people that that are training and dealing with people, I think this is something that this is in our coaching section of a thing we call We Are Mizzou. And this is for my coaches to understand, and they're kind of my managers and so on. And there's other people which I'm going to talk about that really have to understand this and the importance of this and the importance of how good those things come with that. So that's something that we had to do. Now, the one thing that I did when I got there, you got to understand, all these people in our building touch my players. So you have our trainer. He takes care of two most important people you have in your staff is your trainer and your strength coach and conditioning coach. And we happen to have two superstars, okay? And those guys they touch every single one of your players. My wide receiver coach basically just touches the wide receivers, okay? But those two guys make decisions, and they touch every single player. So we have our training staff that deals with our athletes all the time. We have a strength and conditioning staff that deals with our athletes all the time. We have our equipment people that do a great job, food service, nutritionist, okay, academic support system, individual assistant coaches, media relations. All these people are always there, and their job is to serve my players. That's their job, so they can be successful. That's what their job is. So I got all those people together, I think about probably the middle of January, right before that semester started. I got the job in December. Everybody went home, got them all together. And I had to kind of circle the wagons with these people. And what I did, I got him around, and I just told him that this is kind of the things we have to do here, because I heard all these horror stories of things that happened in that building. And so the thing that I did is I talked to him about being loyal, okay? That you're 100% loyal. You are in or you're out. There's nothing in between, okay? You are absolutely 100% loyal, and we will not have you in our organization if you're not. We're going to have a positive environment, okay? That's what we're going to do. We're going to be positive. Even when we get beat, we're going to be positive, okay? We choose to be positive people, encouraging people, and those things will overcome a lot of issues and problems, okay? We're going to be honest, okay? We're going to run the entire football program, everything in that building, of the highest level of honesty, and you're going to hear that word keep coming up this afternoon. We're going to make sure that everything that happens stays in these walls, okay? Which that wasn't going on at all, you know. These people, all the stuff, you know, all these things that happen with players, all these things going on. Well, everybody went out and they told their friends, and that's not, we're not doing that. I ever find at all anybody, I tell my coaches this too, anybody, okay, that takes something outside these walls and aren't supposed to go out, you're gone, you're done. We're not going to have a family, we're not going to have a team that functions like that. It's not going to happen. Okay, it wasn't a threat, it was a fact in how we're going to operate and what we're going to do. So that was real important. I challenged them, Rex Sharp, our trainer, who does a great job, I challenged Rex that I want you to be first team all SEC. Our strength and conditioning coach, I want you to be first team all SEC. Let's not go in there and talk about everybody else. Let's talk about how you're going to bring your component to our winning. How are you going to bring it to a different standard? How you're going to raise it up. How you want to be. I want to know what you need to be the very best. So I kind of challenge them, encourage them to try to be the best also, not just look at players and say they're trying to do it, and so on and so forth. And then one thing that was real important when I got there, I said, you're not allowed to enable players. Players are going to come around, and this is being taped, so I got to watch what I say here. But you got to, any complaining, bitching, groan, negative attitudes, and when you start losing, it's all over the place. That's just the way it is, especially if you're used to losing, because it's the old term, here we go again. But if you sit there, you're not allowed anybody that touched my players. The tutor's trying to help our players in a geology class, and all of a sudden the players start saying, "I'm getting messed over. This place sucks." All this other stuff that happens. Guess what? You are not allowed to do it. You go see a coach. You are not allowed to do it. You can't enable those players if they just want to feel sorry for themselves and they want somebody just to listen to all their gripes and complaints. So those are a number of other things we talked about, and that was real important that I got those on page. And we made a few changes with those people, but for the most part, the ones jumped on and did the right things, and I think we helped work with them to develop their areas of expertise to a real high level of efficiency. What we did, this is our core values. I think this is important real quick for you to understand this. Honesty, we talk about honesty all the time in our football program. It's hard to have a great organization without honesty. Team first, team's more important than you, and I can't overemphasize that enough. I interviewed a bunch of players this week. I've been interviewing, all last 3 or 4 weeks, and a bunch of them said that when they figured out they were doing it for the team, they become a lot better player. It's amazing how that works out, and that's true. We randomly drug test every week in our program, every week, and there's hardly any programs in the country that do that. We do it every week. Respect women. We talk about this all the time in our program, and also respect the cultural differences of other people, all the backgrounds differences, and all the different things, which that one there really applied. When Michael Sam, certainly, the infrastructure of our team, those things had been discussed before that happened. And so that really helped us. So I think that it's important for you to understand kind of where we come from in terms of that. My job is, what is my job basically? I'll narrow it down to a few things. My job, first of all, if I don't win, I can't help kids. Okay? And, that's my job. We understand that. My job is to graduate athletes. We graduate them at a very high level. My job is to develop young men. When I get emails from players that that are applying things that they use to their families or they're applying to their jobs, and it's just really cool to say, hey, Coach, the things that we've learned in your program are helping us along for a lot of different people. I think that's really been important. So that's my job, to do those 3 things. We use the term Mizzou made around here a lot. You'll see that. We advertise it a lot. We talk about it in terms of marketing. That's kind of our deal. We're the 8th winningest program in the nation in the last 7 years, but if you rate our recruiting classes in the same time, they're about 32, 33, okay? Something doesn't fit, okay? But what we do, we tell our recruits, is we'll make you, in player development, stronger, faster, quicker. Our academic services, what we do, how we handle all the different things in our academic services, I could talk 40 minutes on that, are exceptional. That has to do with our graduation, and all the things we do to develop young men. But that's Mizzou made. We think our player development in all those areas is better than anybody in the United States. When I go in homes, we talk about that. We really sell that. You kind of grab something that you got to hold on to, and that's been real important to us. Those numbers, I think those numbers kind of speak for themselves. What we do here is we got to. This is our program, just overall, and I could talk about all this, but I'm not gonna, so don't worry about it. Attention detail, everything's important. Every little thing's important. When you don't start doing the little things, you'll start letting this go and this go and this go and this go, then you lose who you are, okay? This is talked about all the time in our program. Discipline, consequences for poor decisions, behavior, and that's dealing with our players. Demanding accountability, we'll talk about that later. It's just, it's all about accountability. Extraordinary work ethic, habits. Social habits, practice habits, weight room habits, work ethic, all that. How good do you want to be? How great a player do you want to be? Well, you got to develop great habits. Habits in everything we do. We talk to our players about habits. We talk to them this time of year. These are your habits now. They're a lot better than a year ago. But guess what? You can do a heck of a lot better in the weight room than you're doing right now, where you're not using our academic resources the right way. Build relationships, trust. We're going to talk about that. Stay on the cutting edge. There's one constant always in this world. Things are changing. And if you're sitting there watching everybody change and things are going real well for you and you just kind of say, well, gosh, we're pretty good. And we're pretty good and I think we're really good and I like what we do. And guess what? Somebody's doing something out there maybe 1 or 2% better than you are. The key is to find that 1 or 2% and apply it to you and apply it to your organization. So that's something that has been important for us. So we have to stay on the cutting edge in everything, in recruiting and offenses and defenses and kicking game and player development and all these things. And develop the team concept. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Culture, family, atmosphere, and relentless self-evaluation. Relentless self-evaluation. Constantly evaluating everything you do. I got this from Nike. Phil Knight, I was in a deal with him and some other coaches. We're a Nike school. And this is what Nike, the Nike Corporation, relentless self-evaluation. And it kind of fits if you understand that business and how it works. So that's kind of our plan to get that done. Now, leadership is, and we're going to talk real quick about building a team atmosphere and kind of how you change those kind of attitudes. But leadership is vital to building. You can't talk about changing attitudes. You can't talk about team atmosphere if you don't talk about leadership, because that's really ultimately how it's going to get done. Okay. A prerequisite for team building is excellent leaders, managers, people that are going to carry the message, that they're going to deliver it. You can walk around and say, well, we want to have a great team, we want to have a family, it's the team. But if your leaders can't get that done, if you can't get that done, your infrastructure can't get it done and work with it when you got problems and to deal with it, if you can't get that done, you're not going to be a great team. It's not going to happen. Leaders must know how to deal with motivating players, motivating, reprimanding, caring for, instructing. They got to know all those things. All that has to do with attitudes of people, which ultimately has to do with team. All these components are really important. Leaders need to communicate the message. Very specific attention to detail message of the team and what's expected of the team. Okay, so we got to know. We first got here. We were losing a lot. It was ugly. It was awful. I hated it. Okay, but we were losing a lot. And so what we did is we had somebody, because they're locker room lawyers. You know, when things aren't going well, the locker room lawyers are rampant. You know, so what I did is I assigned coaches times to be in the locker room. Okay. So they might leave there and go eat something or go somewhere with a teammate and then start it up there, but we're not going to have that environment in the locker room. So I actually, my players never knew that, but I had guys assigned to the locker room every 20 minutes, and coaches, to make sure that we weren't going to have those kind of things happen and get done would infiltrate our football team. You're constantly educating the players on the importance of team, and it never stops. This is important for us, and this is your leaders, and this is the people in your team, and you got to declare it, and we do in our player. You got to be a values-oriented organization, run an organization that functions with integrity, honesty, trustworthiness, loyalty, pride. Values enable you to know the difference between what's the best and what's doing right. And when you have the people in your organization, like all these that touch my players, if they have these qualities, then it's going to help promote having a great team and a great team environment. But if you're lacking in those, you have people working that aren't very trustworthy, they're not very loyal, their integrity is questionable, and guess what? It's going to filter down, and you're never going to be able to get the things done that you want to get done. Let me see. Okay, so what we did here right here is we said, okay, we're going to have a plan here. Okay, let's have a plan, and how are we going to change this football team? Okay, we didn't go just let's be nice to them and hopefully they start winning. It works. We did a bunch of things. Well, change is all about relationships. It's all about we have to have a plan for relationships. We have to plan for building trust. We have to plan for consistency. We have a team covenant, kind of make a statement about who we are. If you're a member of the University of Missouri football team, a family atmosphere. How are we going to create that? One of the proudest things I am, if you ever hear my players talk about our team, they talk about family all the time. Now, they didn't when I first got here. They didn't talk about it at all. But they talk about it all the time now, about a family atmosphere. And we work hard at being a good family. And good families have things go wrong, but guess what? Good families get them straightened out and you keep moving along. And that's we take a lot of pride in that. Having an environment that's positive attitude, have an environment where there's accountability. You don't have excuses for things. And then also communication is remarkably important for a great team atmosphere. I'll talk about that in a real second. All these areas must be nurtured and developed to have the right atmosphere for teamwork. Okay, so now the first thing developed in a team concept is going to be, I'm going to talk about is trust. Okay? And trust is without trust, this is a given, okay? Without trust, you will have no ownership. Without ownership, you will have no team. You want the guy to be, I want to be love Mizzou. Guess what? If he doesn't trust you, you don't have a chance. And if you have people in your organization that you can't trust, you don't have a chance either. So that's why we talked about leadership and how those people around touching the players are so very, very important. You have to have it. Without it, you're not going to have a team. People in organizations need to feel that you care about them. And I think that's a really important statement here. Know your players and show you care. Don't expect. I tell my coaches this. Don't expect. I want our players to love Mizzou football and love the team. I want them, they got academics, they're different than anybody else on this campus. They got academics and they got football, and their social life should be like 20%. That's what it should, for all the time they put in and extra time they put in. But I said, don't expect them to passionately care about our football program if they don't feel like we passionately care about you. And that's a given. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Okay, so you want them to love this place, they better feel that you love them. And guess what? Love not the player, love the person, okay? The good player, we're going to treat him a little bit better because he's a good player. No, we don't do that, okay? We treat everybody the same, okay? And so that's real important, I think. It's management. You got 18 people you're in charge of. and you don't feel, you want them to love your company or your business, what they do, and guess what? You've never asked them one personal thing about anything in their life. Do you want them to care about their company and this job? They don't feel like you care about them? It's not, I don't think it's going to work. In our situation, it doesn't. Create a team atmosphere. So what we came up with this family covenant, okay? This family covenant, it's a big ritual when we sign it. Like last year what we did is I have a table, put a table in my office. I have this team covenant you're going to see here on a board. And like all the receivers came up. I shook hands with me. I took photos of them. They signed the bottom of it. Then we hang it in the receiver room so it's there all the time. Okay? This was written by me and players a long time ago. And what I do is I sit down with the captains or the seniors, and we go through the whole thing again. Last year we made 2 or 3 little changes because they wanted to add some things that they wanted in. But a covenant is an agreement that binds people together, and either you're in or you're out. Team covenant is based on the standards and policies of the team. Mizzou Family Covenant, you're committed to excellence not only as an athlete, but a student athlete. Your success and achievements are for the family. Individual goals and accomplishments are secondary to the family. You abide by family policy, rules, regulations. One of the players last year put this in, or this place might not be for you. That's what the players put in. That's what my players did, which is awesome. You will not participate in any cliques or segmented groups that destroy the family or concept of unity. Missouri Tiger football players give their all the time. He never gives up, never gives in. You must have a winning attitude. We talk about winning attitude and things like that. And the commitment to what we call our team bottom line, which is a football play without talking any football. Care about the family. You must care about winning and making the personal sacrifice to your family. If this were easy, everybody could do it. And they sign this thing in the ritual. So this declares who we are. It's not something that we do and we watch very clear. They just sign the thing and say, okay, it's gone. We have classes. We had them in February for all our freshmen, for last year's new freshmen. Our seniors taught the team covenant in a 30-minute meeting with all the freshmen. So again, we're giving them leadership. You've been here. You go teach these guys what this is all about. So it's not one of those things that just looks good on a wall. Boy, that's really cool. But you don't apply it. We do apply it. And so that's important to know there that we do that. The second thing that we talk about in positive in developing team concept is positive attitude and positive environment. And I do not like being around negative people. I don't want to like be around grumpy people. I want positive, encouraging people. Now you might say, well, Coach, you can't even have a bad day around you. Well, you can have a bad day, but if your bad day starts affecting the guy next to you, then it's a bad attitude. You all with me? We all have stuff we're dealing with. So that's why I explain to my players. The guy's in the locker room, things aren't going well for him, and guess what? Everybody around him is paying for it because he doesn't feel very good about it. Something's up with him. Okay, that's a bad attitude. That hurts teams. You will not embrace your team. You will not embrace the team environment if you've got negative people around you. And so we create a positive environment, be positive, enthusiastic. We talk about enthusiasm all the time. Enthusiasm overcomes so many things. Don't like negative people, we'll tear down. Attitude, this is the best thing ever written about attitude. And maybe, I know you all got great attitudes, that's why you're here. But if someday if you have kids or something, or you got some friends, you want to slide this thing under their door and tell them to be a team player, and this is what it's about. But this is great, and basically, it's just about having a great attitude. You're in charge of your own attitude. That's what it is. You are absolutely in charge. Nobody else is in charge of your attitude. And we cannot change the inevitable. Remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we'll embrace for that day. We can't change the pastor. We cannot change the fact that people act a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can play as on the one string we have, and that's our attitude. And I'm convinced that life's 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react. And I think that's huge and how important that is. And you're not going to have a great team environment if you don't have trust in there where people trust you. And you're not going to have it if you don't have a positive environment. And a positive and demanding a positive environment. And demanding a positive environment when things are the toughest, okay? Because that's ultimately what you have to get done and what you have to do. So that's the attitude. That's another thing that's very important, I think, in the change. We demanded great attitudes from our team. To this day, we still do. Do we have problems with players like that? Sure we do. Okay, but we bring them in the office. We've had to have guys get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, come in my office and write that up, write it 20 times before they go to their first class. Print it out with their hands. Okay, come in the next morning, 6 o'clock, print it out. Guess what? Their attitude is that's called an attitude check. And so we do those kind of things to change behavior if we need to. The next thing I think that we had to do is we had to get, there's no accountability. When you're losing attitude, you're blaming other people. When things aren't going well, I'm doing my job. He's not doing his job. She's not doing her job. And what happens is, I think what you have to do is you have to eliminate excuses. And kids nowadays, I know none of you are like this, okay? But I've been doing this for a long time. I've been getting kids at 18 years old for many, many years, more than I really want to say, okay? And kids now, more than ever, got excuses for everything, okay? It's not their fault. They do not take responsibility. If you don't take responsibility, you are not accountable to your team. If you're not accountable to your team, we will not have a success and we won't win. So we get now that attitude, that's the attitude sign, that's in every room in the Matsey building where our offices are, that big tiger head is across from the stadium. And this one's in every single room also. And this attitude and the no excuse thing are other days that the seniors took into the freshmen this year, okay, and talked to them and retaught them all this and the importance of these things. Again, we don't do this stuff once every 2 years. We continually do it. Why? Because we're developing teammates. We're developing attitudes and teammates. This is the best thing ever written. I would like to say I wrote it, but that would be a lie. It's really good. It talks about excuse for non-performance, however valid, softens the character. It's a sedative against one's own conscience. When a man, again, I'm dealing with football players, so no emails. When a man uses an excuse, he attempts to convince both himself and others that unsatisfactory performance is somehow acceptable. He's perhaps unconsciously attempting to divert attention from his performance. The only thing he's looking for is some sympathy. No matter how good or how valid, the excuse never changes performance. The world measures success in terms of performance alone. That's reality. No man is remembered in history for what he could have done or would have done. History never asks how hard it was to do the job, nor considers the obstacles. It never measures the handicap. One thing it does is performance. No man ever performed a worthwhile task without constantly ignoring many plausible excuses. And to add the excuse habit, to use the excuse habit, we cannot have both the excuse habit and the performance habit. It doesn't work. It never works. I see kids dramatically change when they take responsibility for themselves and they're accountable, and their self-esteem just goes whoop. They take care of it. They take everything that happens to them, they take responsibility. And when they eventually do that, and it happens to bunches of our players all the time, at different times, unfortunately, sometimes they're juniors when it happens, they like to do this when they're freshmen, it's amazing how kids will change. And it changes their entire lives. So we have to be accountable as a team to one another. And being accountable as a team to one another, we cannot have the excuse habit. And that's why that's important, and that's why that's one of the other things. Notice the startling effect this will have on your own self-respect. You'll have recognized your failure. You'll have been honest to yourself. You'll have been one step closer to the performance habit. You'll be a better man for it. We'll be a better football team. Now, that's another component. Another component that we have is communication, okay? I think this is so important when you're dealing with a team, is communicating. I think it's, I can't emphasize it. I can't emphasize it enough. And I can't express how important this is. Operation of this program is very transparent, and it's communication is key. I'm going to give you a couple things that I think are important here. Get this off here. My players and staff don't ever get sideswiped. They don't walk in the office one day and go, "Holy cow, what's going on here? What is this?" It never happens. My players don't come in and say all of a sudden, we're doing this something completely different, and why are we doing this? I have no idea why we're doing this. That never happens, okay? We communicate. Anything happens the media-wise. Our players find out before anybody else does, okay? They trust that they're going to hear from us, and they trust that. They expect honest and open communication, and we expect that, and we are demanding of it, okay? If a player tells a lie, tells something that's half untrue, we call them out, okay? Because we're not going to be the right kind of family if we don't trust one another, we don't communicate well. My players and staff are always informed, and we do this basically with text messaging the most when they're not around us as groups. But we have a really, it's really hugely important that they know what's going on. They're not just sitting in that building and things are happening and they have no idea what's going on. They know everything that's going on, and I think they embrace that. My players and staff understand if we don't have open communication, then we will lack trust. And if you don't have trust, you're in trouble. I call you, you call me back, okay? You call me, I call you back. Text the same way, okay? We got players, freshmen come in, you text them, they don't text you back. You bring them in the office, okay? Then you tell them that we're not doing this. You want to be a family here, and you won't even call me back? You won't even text me back? Are you kidding me? We don't have a chance. And so we have to change environment. We have to change their thinking. Okay, we're a family here, and we communicate with one another. Now, I know guys, the kids, a heck of a lot more, they like to text and they like talking on the phone. I know that. I know you guys are the same way. So we have learned that. But that's real important. I get a call from a player, and I call him back a day later or half a day later, 2 days later. The second I get that call, I get back to him. Well, I text, it's a phone call. And he does the same thing for me. And we all do that. And our staff is the same way. Communication, we communicate with one another. We're not going to break down communication. You break down communication, you're going to break down trust, you're going to break down what we're about. And we don't permit that, we do not allow that to happen. Anything of significance should be done in person, okay? I see people now that give reprimands on email, or they'll text then because they don't want to face the music, okay? And we don't ever do that. We post our depth every day. Players move up, they move down. We bring them in, we talk to them. If I have to reprimand or do anything with any staff member, any player, they're right in my office. I don't send them an email or a text and say, don't do this, we shouldn't do this, we don't want these kind of things. It devalues you, it devalues your organization. You can't do that. And it's real easy to do it, but as a leader, if you're afraid to deal with people, okay, you got to get over it. Okay, it's not going to work. You won't be able to change behavior. If you're afraid to do that, it's not going to happen. But anything significant should be done in person. I think you guys understand that. Another thing we do is we call it crossover interaction, and this is really kind of important for us and hugely important because this is some things that we do. We'll go by these real quick here. Crossover interaction, we learn about and appreciate all your teammates, okay? And that's the same thing. You got 18 people that work in a small business, and nobody knows anything about anybody, okay? Well, we want them to really be a team. Well, guess what? It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And so what we do is we have these things, set up social events with open, honest conversation about your past. This develops understanding and awareness. This is a big thing with Michael Sam. We're Michael. And Michael Sam, we had crossover dinners, and our crossover dinner is one of the best things we do. I got 127 players, 15 of them come over to my house. I'm there with those 15 players, 15 go over to Coach Hill's house, 15 go to the other coach's house. And so all we got over there, and they're all different guys. They've never been in the same place together. When we have these crossover dinners, we want 15 different players that have never, they don't hang out with these guys, and they don't know anything about the story. And then, I stand up, and I say, I'm Gary Pinkel. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, and I talk about my past and talk about my brother and sister had a disease called hereditary spastic paraplegia. And I didn't get the disease. So I talk about all this stuff, and these guys are looking at me. I got guys standing up talking about stuff in their family. Are you kidding me? And you know what it does? You got a great appreciation, okay, for what kids and people have to go through. And it changes you. It changes your organization. It changes your team. You might say, well, how can you, we can't do that. Well, you can find ways to do something like that, and it's going to help you. It's going to make you better. So that's a quick example of that one there. The other ones I have real quickly, position mix dinners. So I have every spring in March and April, I have all the players are going to be in my house for dinner one time, that time of year. Okay, every player is going to have dinner at my house, and I don't cook. Okay, so to let you know, I'm going to check that right there. Okay, but what we did is we'll have the corners and the offensive line. Those guys don't hang around with each other ever. They're teammates. Don't hang, but they're all in my house for a couple hours, and we eat, we talk, and just have a good time, play video games, watch TV, that type of thing. And then the next day it might be the offensive line or the tight ends and the safeties or something. And we constantly mix these guys so they're hanging out with each other. That's one thing we do. Offensive coaches and players have a picnic once a year, and defensive coaches and players do the same thing. Players go to assistant coaches' homes all the time, and it's so great for most of those guys. The family structure's changed remarkably since I've been coaching. And it's so neat for those guys to be able to go into families and see really good families run well, mom, dad there, kids. It's really a great environment. And so our position coaches and recruiting coaches bring their, if I coach a wide receiver, all my wide receivers I'm going to have over a couple times a year, 2-3 times a year. And they get to know the families and everything else, and it's really good. All players have dinner at least once a year. At my house, seniors have it about 4 times. There's not going to be, just because they're not going to walk around and say, I've never been to Coach Pinkel's house. I've never been there at all. I haven't done that. That can't happen. Team activities, we put volleyball. We were rained out the other day at paintball and basketball, and then the coaches get in there, and the paintball, they just try to slaughter me. I mean, the rule is when you get hit, you don't sit there and, well, guess what? They hit me, and they just blast me, okay? So and they have a blast. And if they're having a blast, I'm having a blast. But I get back at them, though. So I get back up. Community service together. we're going to go out. We're going to go out and we're going to meet at 2:30 on this Thursday, and we're going to do community service. And we're going to, our whole football team, right now the freshmen are in this, we have 105 players, all our coaches. We'll go all around the Columbia area, and we'll put in about 2 to 3 hours of community service, and just a force of guys out giving. And my guys go to hospitals, they go to great schools, they do a tremendous amount of things. But doing that together is good, okay? You get so much from those things. National Guard this summer. Last year, I think 45 players went National Guard. They went in, they taught them how to shoot guns, and they talked about teamwork and everything else. So we do that in the summers with our players. Get seniors to teach the Mizzou Foundation, no excuses, team covenant. We got several other things that goes with that. Get players involved in decision making. I started this years ago, and it's really worked. I'll give suggestions. I meet with the seniors all the time. We have a final team meeting tomorrow at 3:30. I'll meet with the seniors at 3 o'clock, and we're going to talk about the summer and some other things. But I'll throw things out to kind of stir it up a little bit in terms of think. But I like them coming up with ideas that I want to do. But it's their idea. They think it is, okay? And that's good, though. It's great because guess what? Gosh, Coach Pinkel listens to us. Yeah, he listens to us. And so, when I was a young coach, heck with that. I don't care what we're going to do, so I'm going to do this and everything else. But I changed, and that's why I said that it never ending, there's things change. I text every one of my players get a happy birthday text from me. I want you to know that's lovey, but I do that. Every player gets to text happy birthday from me. I text positive quotes to our team, especially during the season. On a couple days a week, I'll text that. I meet with all the players twice a year in my office. Okay, I just met with my 77th player, I think today. It's been over 5 days. I met with all those guys. I met them all before spring football, all after spring ball. And we talk about a lot of different things, and that's important. Meet with position coaches, meet with their players and talk about personnel evaluations, real defined things that they have to do to get better. Again, this is all communication. So all these things are activities, I think, that all these are little things that really paint a big picture, and we are Mizzou, this is our football team, this is the right environment to be around, and this is what we like to do. Now the other thing here that we talk about here real quick is consistency. There's nothing that will destroy your program or trust and teamwork more than feeling and seeing inconsistency from leadership. I just think it's awful. It's awful. When you're I don't deal with players. I do the same thing with staff. But you go in and you talk to this player a lot, but you don't talk to these players at all very much. Okay? Or this player does something wrong, you'll really reprimand him hard, but this player right here, you kind of blow it off a little bit. If you're 30 seconds late for a meeting in our place, we give you awareness training. Why you can't be late. We call it awareness training. Okay? And to make them aware of why they have to be on time. And so what happens is the guy lets a starter slide, okay? And let him get in there, and let one of the other guys comes in a minute late, and he's doing gassers after practice for it. I can talk about that over and over and over again. Okay, people getting paid more than somebody else, and keeping that person in there when that person here is doing twice the job that person's doing right there. That's inconsistencies. Okay, those kind of things. And I think it's really you really have to make sure. I think that the consistency and talking with people as leaders, of critiquing people, of all those things, they got to see consistency. Because if they don't see consistency, this guy gets treated better than me. This person over here, they guess what? They're not going to grab it. They're not going to hold on. Okay? There's a weakness there. So I think it's real important that you have to have consistency in what you're trying to do. And for example, you got leaders that go in and they're poor attitude and they're grumpy and they're not doing very good, and this filters down amongst everybody. Okay, and so the consistency of how you present yourself to your team as leaders, I think, is real important too. And it goes on and on and on. But the consistency affects everybody. And guess what it does? It hits trust right in the face. You start inconsistency. That guy's talking. I walked by his locker 5 times to say hi to this guy in the locker room. Okay, I walked by this guy 5 times. And I haven't said a word to this guy, but I go to the 2 starters over there, okay? Very easy to do, okay? And guess what? Your credibility starts ratcheting down. I'm going to get done with these 2 seconds. I'm going to give 2 seconds for each one of these. I know I'm going to I'm talking fairly fast, though, aren't I? So I'm pretty good at that. Laws of Teamwork, okay? This is a book. You want to buy this book. It's called The 17 Individual Laws of Teamwork. We got about 7 of them. We kind of redid our own thing. This guy's really sharp, okay? Got a lot of stuff out there. I read everything I can. I'm only looking for about 1%, though. We got a program. We got a system in place. I'm not trying to change our program 15%. The year before, when we had a tough year, we had all those injuries, and I didn't do a very good job coaching. That year right there, we didn't come in and start, we're going to do this different, we're going to do this, we're going to change this. We didn't do that at all. We embraced who we are. We embraced all that stuff I showed you, okay? But we always want to try to make ourselves 1% better, okay? In every area of our program. We're always trying to do something to make ourselves better. Okay, real quick here. There's the law of the big picture. You got to understand the big picture. You got to understand that the team goal is greater than your goal, and that's real important. Okay, you want to catch 75 balls, but I don't care. I'd rather have catch 55 and us win 5 more games. Okay, the next law is the law of the chain. Okay, you're as strong as your weakest link. You're as strong as your weakest link. So everybody's got to be in, man. Everybody's got to be there. Because eventually, that weak link's going to cost you something. Okay, it's going to cost you a victory, or it's going to cost something else that was going to happen to you. Quickly then, the law of the bad apple, okay? You put a bad apple in a bushel of good apples, what are you going to have in a week? You're going to have a bunch of bad apples, okay? The locker room lawyers. Those guys destroy your team. They destroy your business, your organization. If they're sitting around being negative, you know what? Get rid of them. This guy, I learned this a long time ago when I first became a head coach, okay? I read this, it was, I forget the author of the book, but this is what the guy said about having to let somebody. Hiring the right person won't destroy your organization. Keeping that wrong person in your organization will destroy it. So you get bad people, you can make mistakes, change them, try to help them. If not, get them out of there, okay? Because they're going to start affecting everything else and that's just a thing that I've learned over the years. Real quickly, law of accountability, we talked about that. We have to, the strength of the team is in trust among the teammates. You need to know for certain that you can count on your teammates, and they need to count on you. Our team was very accountable to one another last year. Our team prepared during the week, and on Saturday morning, Friday nights and Saturday mornings, consistently, week after week, better than any team I've ever coached. They were into it, man. They got that, okay? And that was one of the best we ever had. We ended up 5th in the nation. Law of the price tag. There's a price to pay if you want to be good, okay? You got to work your tail off. There's nothing easy about winning. I tell people all the time. Winning's hard, man. That's why they're firing coaches. You see 35, 40 coaches getting fired every year. Okay? And winning is hard, and there's nothing easy about it. But you got to pay the price in order you want to be good. And then I got here the high morale, that's maintaining a good attitude, especially when things are getting tough, okay? And we are all judged in my business when things get tough. That's when we're all judged. And the law of respect, okay? We got to have great respect for one another. If we have great respect for one another, we can do a lot of good things. Okay? Do you have any questions? I got a lot more. I got a speaking engagement, and you guys want to get in the sun, so we're going to stop here. Any questions you might have, even about football?
Do it on the mic so that the video can pick up the question, and that way when Coach answers it,
Coach, thank you for coming and speaking with us.
You bet.
When you have higher profile people in your organization leave or are asked to leave, like for example, Coach Yost, or this spring we had DGB had parted ways. How do you keep up? How do you keep morale up when people like that leave? What are your strategies for keeping the team pointed in the positive direction when you have key players leave?
Well, I think you all heard it because you had the mic there. I think those things. What you have, it's communication. That's a great example of communication. So when DGB, when we had to make that decision, what I did is I got all the seniors right away. I had them in my office. I think within the next 24 hours. We went into position rooms, talked about it. We explained why we did it, what happened. Communication, okay? They might be hearing all kinds of things out there that might be untrue, but they're going to hear the truth from us. And so I think communicating that. Same thing with Coach Yost left, okay? That we talked to our team, we explained why he did it, what the things were. And so there's a great example. If you don't communicate that and you just let them take it for what they want, then you're going to have a lot of problems internally.
Hey, Coach. So throughout your career, you've obviously had to make quite a few decisions, moving around to quite a few football programs. Mm-hmm. And personally, I don't think that's so different than a lot of the decisions we'll have to make as future business leaders, wanting to advance our careers. So I guess what I'm wondering is, considering you've been quite successful with your decisions, what are some of the things that you consider before you make the move? Maybe how do you weight them? What are the factors?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that people is real important. Who you're going to work for, where you're working. I think you look at your goals. I think the people part of it's hugely important. The people that you're going to trust, you're going to be around. I had an opportunity about 5 years ago to go to Michigan. I had an opportunity this year to go to Washington. Go back there and coach. And for me, it was the difficulty of the task ahead. The energy level it takes to win, and to start all over again in those programs, start doing all the stuff here at page one, and all those things over. And plus my family's all here, so I made those decisions those ways. I was not a mover. I don't have too many of those guys on my staff. The average BCS coach program loses probably 1.5 to 2 coaches a year, and I've lost 4 coaches in 14 years, and they've all had opportunities to go. And I think if we run a family type atmosphere, I think that's good for them. They get to home and see their kids, and most other programs they don't. So I think you look at those type things, is it going to fit your family too? But I'm very goal-oriented, like you guys are. You want to be very, very successful, and I think picking the right people to work for is really, really important. And I think it's also important that I was a guy that I was not a bounce around. I'm not a bounce around guy. Nick Saban, I think, who I played college football with at Kent State. Nick Saban might have been 9 places, 10 places. I've been basically 2 years at Bowling Green. I was at the University of Washington, University of Toledo here. I've been 4 places, and geographically really 3, because Toledo and Bowling Green right next to each other. And I'm just not a bounce around guy. At the same time I was at Washington, I had a bunch of my friends went around all over the place. I think taking a bad job where you might get stuck, I'd watch that too. I want that position so bad. It's not a very good company. I don't think it is. But last 3 I interviewed for, first 3 head coaching jobs I interviewed for, I didn't get the job. 2 of the places I'd worked for. How bad was that? I'm sitting there looking at the mirror, counseling myself, trying to deal with that. So I think that's real important. I think all those things you have to do. Don't make that kind of a move just because you're. I see a lot of guys take head coaching jobs, and 4 or 5 years later you can't win at those places, and they're not going to be successful. But they had to jump because I want to do it. I just think you got to be smart about that move, and then where are you going to go from there? What's the best place there? But still, working for the right people is the best advice I can give you. Yeah.
Hi. You have all these factors to protect your players, keep their attitudes up. What do you do to keep your attitude up, and what kind of support staff do you have for yourself?
I'm a pretty focused guy. The family's important to me. Obviously, I got my 7th grandchild, a little boy, about 4 weeks ago. I got all my family lives here, so I'm that I always gravitate to that. When I got time, I think 3 days this week, all 3 of my granddaughters are at the same school. I'm picking them up from school if I get a chance to do that. So that's important. I stay focused. The Don James thing, it's been documented. I worked for I played for and I worked for at Washington. Don James, when I took the head coaching job at Toledo, I was coming out of his office, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Thanks, Coach," and shook his hand and everything. Started walking. I looked back, and I said, "Coach James, any words of advice?" He said, "Yeah, I got some advice for you." And this is the best advice I would not be here if I wouldn't have got this advice. He said, he looked at me, and this really applies to my business, but I think it probably applies to everybody. He says, when things get tough, and he looked me dead in the eye with those eyes of his, and that used to yell at me when I was a player. And he looked at me and he says, "Gary, things are going to get tough." He says, "When they get tough, you wake up that morning and you do your job, focused, hour by hour by hour. You don't let anything at all. You do your job. And guess what? You go to bed and you wake up the next morning." And that was the best advice I ever got. Because you start getting consumed that, gosh, this didn't go well, that didn't go well, how am I going to handle this, when am I going to do this? You don't, man. You lock on what you got to get done, and you focus, you get people to help you the best you can, and you do your job. You do it right. You do what you got to do. That was the best advice I'd ever got from anybody. And I think that applies to a lot of things in life, that, if you can't focus. Bottom line is, in our business, you get caught up with all the media firing at you and your players and everything, all those other things like that. You can't do your job. You know how many coaches I've seen got fired because they couldn't do that? To me, that's the best advice I can give you there. I like to ride motorcycles. I like to I like a fast boat. I got a new motorcycle that's pretty fast too. But I don't go fast, okay? I want you to know that, okay? I like to golf a little bit. Like to read, so I try to keep myself busy too.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask you a recruiting question. You've had a lot of experience in Mizzou recruiting, and this new class looks like it's going to be a really great one. I want to know what your biggest selling point is to recruits about the University of Missouri.
Well, when we got here, we didn't have anything to sell. I mean, they had all this losing was going on. But what we sold was that I played at Kent State for Don James, and Don James, this was 12 years ago, a legendary coach at the University of Washington. I played for him at Kent State. Okay, then he took that program to Seattle, Washington. That's when I started coaching with him. So I played for him, took that program to Washington. We took that and we dropped it in Toledo, Ohio. Won championships, gave the winning record, most wins in history of the in a 10-year period of time. Then we dropped, and then so we're picking that one up. There at Kent State, that worked at Washington, that worked at Toledo, and now we're dropping it in Columbia, Missouri, and it's going to work. I'm going to show you how it worked. That was our deal. We had nothing else to do. But that was, hey, we got some credibility because we've had success. So that was something I think, really important in terms of, expressing that. What we do here now when you got wins, I mean, we're draft days in a couple of days here, but we're in the top 5 in the nation the last 7 years in first-round draft choices. Our APR ranking academically is one of the top 10 in the nation of 130 schools, which is an academic progress rating system. So we got tons of stuff now. I mean, real positive, win. And honestly, a lot of people don't know the amount. We won 4 divisional championships the last 7 years. And we had a chance to win 2 national championships. How many teams get that chance? 2007, we're at Oklahoma at halftime. We're a point away from them. And then you saw this one, and we didn't finish the Auburn game. They did things to win to get in it. But that's our goal. Our goal is to win it. So we really have a real high expectation, and so we sell that stuff. I can't text recruits right now, but I send messages out to them on Twitter, direct messaging. I can do that. So I got stuff going on all the time with those guys. All the bullet points, constantly getting to them, and Mizzou made. We're doing great at Mizzou made. And so we got a lot of things we sell. Our facilities, are remarkably changed when I got here. And I mean, gosh, when I got here, you were probably 8 years old. Yeah, but I'll tell you, they weren't very good. And now you see the east side going up and all that. We got more. We're going to build a new indoor facility. We got a lot of things. But Mike Alden's done a remarkable job here. I mean, remarkable. Consider where this place was when we got here.
Coach, what were some of the biggest changes, or if any changes, that you had to make preparing for the higher level of competition in the SEC?
People ask me that all the time. You're going to recruit different. You're going to, it's so good this year because we had, kind of year we had, because then all of a sudden now, we're good enough to play in the SEC. I think most of the problems we had the year before were injury related. But that year, we were 1 game away from, being 6-6 and being able to get in a bowl game. If I'd done it better, I looked at me. We also had to do one more game. We lost. We had 5 games, went down to the last drive. We won 3 of them and lost 2. But I think the SEC is a great league. I think the biggest change for our team last year was probably me. Okay, and the Harbaugh family, Jim and John Harbaugh. I know his dad real well, and Jim is out at Stanford. I knew him when he's head coach. He was an NFL. A great coach he is at the 49ers. And he just took the job. He did a great job at Stanford. Just took the job at the 49ers, and they were looking at Alden Smith and Blaine Gabbert and all those. They had all these coaches here because they were first-round draft picks. And I pulled him over. He pulled me over and we started talking because he was in our offices and everything and checking up on all these guys. And talking to him, Jim Harbaugh said, I said, it's Stanford's a tough job. It is difficult. But his whole thing was, he thought it was an easy job because if you go around the nation, you can find 30 guys, with high GPAs and high test scores. All you got to find is 30, he said. And they did is they recruited national like Stanford never has done before, and you see the consistency of what's happened there. But then he started talking about the NFL. And in the NFL, every team's about as good as the other team. Well, just got a couple more players, but you talk about competition. So he looks at me, and his eyes get about this big. He says, "The best football in the world, the best coaches in the world, the best athletes in the world. Everybody can beat everybody. Can you believe the opportunities we have? He got me pumped up, man. I was about ready to go. So what I did with our team this year, instead of saying, respect, those kind of things, what we talked about is just, you know what, it doesn't matter who we play or where we play. It's about how we play. That's all that matters. We don't care. We don't care if it's down in Georgia. We're going to go have fun down there. We don't play in these stadiums. Are you kidding me how much fun it is to play in these? So I think this guy did a better job of getting these guys thinking that, hey, this is about us. It isn't about them. It's about us. And we carried that the whole way this year, and I think it helped us a little bit. So we'll see. Well, anyway, I got a speaking engagement down Lake of the Ozarks right now, so I got to go to real quick. I appreciate you all being here on a very, very nice day, and sorry I talk so fast, but I didn't want anybody leaving. Okay. So
Okay, so, all right, very quickly, because Coach does have to go, we have a plaque commemorating him as one of our Vaughn speakers and one of our centennial limited edition treats, and thank you very much. And have a good next engagement. So thank you very much.